I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime, and this is Currents. Do fashion police need to enforce the church dress code?
It's a sacred place, and you should be decent when you come to church.
Once you figure out what to wear, some help on where to go.
These are the places that the sweat and blood of the poor workers are poured into these bricks and mortar.
And the Eternal City is also Souvenir City.
Well, good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. Hot Town, Summer in the City. Okay, it's more than just a song. Increasingly, the hot temperatures actually mean dressing down for restaurants, theater, and even for church.
Even for church, but is that really appropriate? Not everybody agrees. We went to Holy Name and Immaculate Heart of Mary parishes in Windsor Terrace, and we asked churchgoers, what do you think is appropriate to wear to church?
Well, there's definitely a right way to dress for church. God deserves our best.
It's a sacred place, and you should be decent when you come to church, so there will be no distractions.
Your clothes should be like the prayer, and say something about your person.
They seem to show more of their bosoms than anything else. And
that's allowed. Is it allowed on the prayer channel to say bosom?
We started off where everybody was dressed, suit, tie, hat, the little lacy thing that the, pilgrims wore.
The wrong way is just regular park clothes.
Something you shouldn't. Well, maybe something too low cut or something, and that's the men.
Shorts.
I really don't think like belly shirts or anything like that. I know I have a tank top on right now. Usually I wouldn't wear that.
Shirts that have expressions or sayings on them that are not really right for the occasion, let's put it that way.
I remember the one parish I was in, for instance, the lady had that on her T-shirt, and she said, what was it, how she put it? No wed, no bed, written across. So, things that maybe is not appropriate coming up for communion,
Jeans or sneakers.
Especially if the sneakers are wrinkled.
A lot of people are poor. A lot of people, don't have appropriate clothing, whatever. And the church is open, and it never states that, appropriate attire.
I don't think that matters. I think it's much better to go to church, no matter how you're dressed.
Well, some hot weather and a hot topic to go right along with it.
Absolutely. All those opinions. There's definitely a gamut there.
Right.
So what should you wear to Mass during summer months? We wanted to delve a little bit deeper into the issue, so I went and I talked to some experts around the city to take their temperature. Picnics in the park wouldn't be the same without tank tops and flip-flops, but what you'd wear for a casual stroll in Brooklyn is probably not what you'd want to sport to your friend's wedding or to work.
We have to care how we give respect to church, to praise, to God. We give respect.
That's why church leaders are asking, kindly, that you leave casual Fridays for Friday and still give Sunday Mass celebrations the respect they deserve.
We're not coming here to the beach. This is not Jones Beach. This is the house of the Lord. So we've asked the people to really remember that.
Since Vatican II, there's been a shift to a dress-down culture overall. What First Lady Michelle Obama wore to visit the Pope earlier this month, complete with veil and long sleeves, used to be more commonplace Mass attire for all women.
When I was young, the fondest or the first memory I've had at church, I had a suit and tie, and the girls and the women wore sort of like white handkerchiefs around their heads, but not like they would lay them, sort of like the Jackie O look.
But the times have changed. The rules become more relaxed, a little too relaxed for some.
Well, it's really been a form of education, educating the parishioners, keeping them, in the loop as far as, an understanding that this is a very hot time of the year, but allowing for them to express some kind of individuality without really going over the line. And
I think that a lot of times the congregation, you're going to have a curve. Here's the standard. Some people are going to fall below the curve, and some people are going to go above the curve. So it's whatever that level of acceptance is that's going to be allowed.
Proper Mass attire doesn't have to be overly formal. Several priests we spoke with said even jeans and a modest blouse is okay. But dress etiquette does have some guidelines. One local bulletin offered these. You cannot come to church in clothing meant for the beach or sports field, such as shorts or other skimpy clothing. Women's clothing cannot distract, offend, or invoke effects of a sexual nature. And a man should wear a suit, white dress shirt, and a tie, as well as dress shoes. Abroad, certain attire at religious sites is strictly enforced.
If you go to another country, another church, even in Rome, they have special sign in the church. You cannot wear a t-shirt, you don't have to wear this. If women have short pants, they give shirt. Especially in Greece, I was in Greece. They watching, you know, how people going, even visit. You have to wear a blouse or something, cover her arm. Not allowed to go into the church like that.
Here in the U.S., many non-Catholics express their religious allegiance every single day.
In this area is Jewish area. When the Sabbath come, they always wear it nicely, always different another day. Men have suit, even will be 80, 90 degrees, they wear a suit, they wear a hat, because they go into synagogue. This is Sabbath. Why we not have to go into the church something proper way, show this is our Sunday. We're going to meet with somebody, it's the God, special occasion.
New York may be the fashion capital of the world, but sometimes even New Yorkers can use a little nudging, a friendly reminder of who they're about to meet on any given Sunday.
In the house of God, I think that you should actually, wear your Sunday best. If you're going to church on Sunday or temple on Saturday or whatever day that you do go to your spiritual place for worship. And I think that you're looking your best, so internally you're feeling your best.
What do you think? There's a lot of different opinions on there.
A lot of different opinions, and it's interesting, of course, to be reminded at how other religious traditions, how they dress for their services and for their special days of worship as well.
Yeah, and sometimes just for their everyday wear.
Exactly, every day.
Well, I have posted a little bit more information about what is appropriate mass attire on our blog. Just head over to netny.net/currents and click on Riding the Wave. And one more thing I wanted to mention in that story, I was not dressed very well. I had on jeans and a shirt, and I didn't realize I was going to be in the pictures.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Well, let's just say I wouldn't want to be wearing that to mass.
Right.
Sorry, guys.
Well, she's dressed much better today, so there you go. Stay tuned. There's much more currents coming up straight ahead, including we'll have all the day's headlines for you.
Welcome back to Currents. I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. Coming up later, churches everywhere. We'll take a trip around the Brooklyn Diocese, but first, the day's headlines. No nukes, so says Baltimore Archbishop Edwin O'Brien. Speaking at a symposium on nuclear deterrence, O'Brien told attendees to work to rid the world of nuclear weapons. He said it's an issue of fundamental moral values. The White House has released a list of 16 people President Obama will award the Presidential Medal of Freedom next week. On the list, Nobel Peace Prize winner and Anglican Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Senator Ed Kennedy, and Harvey Milk, the country's first openly gay politician.
From Italy, officials have approved the use of RU-486, also known as the abortion pill. Catholic politicians and the church lobbied heavily against its approval. The Pope's top expert on bioethical issues says, quote, there will be excommunication for the doctor, the woman, and anyone who encourages its use. It turns out Olympic gold medal swimmer Michael Phelps will not meet the Pope after all. Yesterday, we told you that around 100 swimmers will have audience with Benedict XVI on Saturday. Phelps is going to skip that meeting. His trainer says he'll be resting after 3 races today and 1 more on Saturday night. But as we hear from Rome Reports, there is no rest for tourists and the businesses that cater to them around St. Peter's.
With summer in the air, St. Peter's Square is more crowded than ever. The city's high temperatures won't stop Vatican tourists who are always willing to buy a memento of their visit to the Eternal City. You can find everything in the crowded stores around St. Peter's. There's even a ranking of the top-selling souvenirs that includes postcards and hats. Without a doubt, rosaries fly off the shelves. Although there are rosaries of all types and sizes, the best seller is a rose petal scented rosary.
The scented rosary is a rosary made of rose petals pressed with balls with a lasting scent. This is a very well-liked article.
With the start of Year for Priests, new articles have made it to the best-selling list of religious mementos. For example, these small briefcases have become a favorite among priests. They include all the necessary items to properly celebrate a dignified Mass.
Many people come to buy gifts for their parish priests, like bags that include everything to celebrate Mass in the countryside or anywhere.
The most beloved priest in recent memory is John Paul II. His strength and his memory are still represented in the gifts that feature his image.
Tourists ask for his medallions, images, postcards, and photographs.
Rose petal rosaries, keepsakes of John Paul II, and special gifts for the Year for Priests are the popular gifts that tourists take home to different corners of the world to remember their visit to the Eternal City.
And stay tuned, there is much more current straight ahead.
Coming up, there's practically one on every street corner.
These parish churches are like symphonies in stone.
Earlier, we heard a range of opinions on what churchgoers should and should not wear to Mass. And speaking of Mass, the Brooklyn Diocese gives people plenty of opportunity to go with churches just about everywhere. Here on the net, we have a program that highlights those choices.
That's right. Brooklyn is known as the City of Churches, and that's also the name of the show. In its first season, we traveled to 8 churches around the diocese in one day. Let's have a look.
My name is Nick Vavis. I'm setting out on a journey through the Diocese of Brooklyn and Queens. My goal? To visit 8 parishes in one day and show you why we live in a city of churches. Hey everyone, and welcome back to City of Churches as I make my way through the Diocese of Brooklyn and Queens. Now, I just arrived here in Queens and I've got 3 churches to visit today before I head back to Brooklyn. I got here a little bit early because I'm not that familiar with the area, and I've got no time to waste figuring out where I'm going. My first stop, Our Lady of Mount Carmel here in Astoria. Monsignor, when I first walked in, I saw this, which is very unique, that I haven't seen before, the seashell-shaped. Tell me what this is called and what this is that I'm looking at.
This is called a holy water stoop or a holy water font. And the tradition is we bless ourselves with holy water when we enter any church. And this happens to be in the shape of a large seashell, which is a sort of a medieval decorative element referring back to John the Baptist and using a shell to baptize people. So these enormous shells.
Okay.
It's rather elaborate and it's different.
Wow, this is beautiful.
Yeah, it's outstanding in many respects. This is the oldest Catholic church building in Queens County. It was erected in 1871. But the thing that does catch people's eyes really when they come in is the stained glass windows at each end.
And then the stained glass right next to that.
Yes.
Can you tell me a bit about this?
The stained glass, again, that actually goes to the 1915 renovation. And there are interesting 12 windows depicting the 12 apostles. However, it's the 11 that our Lord chose and St. Paul. So guess who they left out? St. Jude.
Oh.
But he's the patron of impossible causes, and he's one of the most popular. So at a subsequent date, they did put a statue of St. Jude on that altar there, right next to our Blessed Mother, to compensate for him not getting a window.
So would this stained glass then be, because you said the altar was a newer addition, is this actually going back older when the church was first constructed?
No, this is not. All the stained glass is 1915.
So what was here before that?
I really don't know. Probably similar to the clerestory windows on the second level, probably some kind of geometric design, I think. Here is probably my favorite. Yeah, no, it's my favorite view of the church, really and truly. It gives you a sense of such uplift, which is what Gothic architecture is intended to do to begin with. The architect was a man named Thomas Houghton, and he was a son-in-law of the famous Patrick Keeley, who built hundreds and hundreds of cathedrals and churches throughout the Northeast. So it's really a Keeley church. It's the same style. Houghton and Keeley worked together on all these things. In those days, Astoria started out as kind of a rural residential retreat for the wealthy people on the tip of Manhattan, but it grew and became more of an industrial year-round area. It became part of Long Island City. This has always been a large, densely populated, highly variegated parish, and today we have Mass in 5 languages.
Wow.
Yeah, we have, I believe we have 11 Masses total on the weekend all the time.
Where did the parishioners worship before this was built? You said this was built in 1871.
71.
So between 41 and 71.
They had a wooden church on 21st
the smaller
Street.
one that you said. Is that still?
No, the building isn't there, but there is a small cemetery of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, which is still there. Not an active one, but that was adjacent to where the old church was. So we're one of the few parishes that has a parish cemetery in this diocese, although it's not used anymore. I read in an old newspaper that the location of this church was actually the place where the first broccoli farm in America was located.
Really? Broccoli farm.
Broccoli farm. What can I tell you?
And
Times
now it's a
changed.
church. Yeah,
now it's
exactly.
a church. It's a city
Exactly.
now. But it's it's just much more densely populated, and it's a real vibrant urban center now. And a lot of active, committed parishioners who really do great things. Astoria is a very vibrant community, and it's a place of great faith. I'm amazed we have so many people involved in so many ministries in this parish. But they're very proud of their church. This is the gem of the parish, and they really love it. And this is where we offer the Eucharist, and it's the center of our lives.
Well, Monsignor, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Really,
Nick.
I can't tell you enough, Monsignor.
Okay.
Fascinating. Well, City of Churches there, and when we return, we'll talk to the priest interviewed in that very segment, Monsignor Sean Ogle.
Well, we just had a look at City of Churches, and now we want to get some insight on the show and the churches all around the diocese.
That's right. Earlier in the week, we had the opportunity to actually sit down and speak with the pastor you just saw in that last segment, Monsignor Sean Ogle of Our Lady of Mount Carmel Parish in Astoria.
Monsignor, thank you so much for being here. And this is the first time you've actually been in this studio,
Yes,
right?
it is. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, it's all new. And yet you have worked with us before here at the Net with our program, City of Churches.
Right, that's right.
Yeah. And being featured on that, tell us a little bit about your experience there.
Well, as you know, the City of Churches was focusing on the various interesting church buildings throughout the diocese, which is a great idea because these parish churches are like symphonies in stone or brick, you know, whether they're very old or more recent, they all tell a story. And it's right there in our midst, and the vast majority of people don't really advert to that too much, you know. And we've never done a great job at kind of promoting our own historical significance on the local level. So I think it's a great thing that they were able to focus on that.
Right. Now, your parish is Our Lady of Mount Carmel in Astoria.
Correct.
And what was it like having City of Churches come to your particular parish?
Well, it was a very nice surprise. I didn't know that they were even going to have that program, really, but they called. And it makes sense, though, because it's the first Catholic parish in Queens County, the first place where Mass was celebrated, and the first parish established. The mother church of Queens County.
Right.
And the building is, in reality, it's the oldest Catholic church building currently in use in Queens County. So the building itself goes back to 1871, you know, with subsequent additions and renovations, of course.
And what do you think is the architectural highlight?
I think most people would agree it would be the stained glass. That's what people comment on all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the baptismal font is very beautiful too. It's a simple but rather delicately ornamented stone basin. It stands out, I think.
Great.
How important is edifice when it comes to worship? because obviously someone, you know, I've had the opportunity to go to Italy and to go to the Vatican and to see. I used to joke, I was with my mom at the time, and every single church that we walked by, she wanted to go inside. If there was a wedding, if there was, she wanted to go see it. Every single one. It was this was like a coffee shop or something. She's like, another church, let's go, which is great. But so you see a lot of diversity. But here, what is it that you think is important about edifice and worship?
I think it's tremendously important. I mean, the whole Christian religion is an incarnational religion. It's all about Word made flesh, and it reflects the fact that God chose to enter into history, you know, not to remain aloof from it, and to become incarnate, flesh and blood. And then furthermore, the Catholic system of sacraments, which is all about the grace of God communicated in outward signs. You know, a sacrament is an outward sign instituted by Christ to communicate His grace. So, I mean, the whole thing that we do, bread, wine, water, oil, is about God entering into created objects. Therefore, the use of created objects to celebrate the presence of God, to express the presence of God, is a natural connection for Christianity in general, and I think for Catholicism in particular. And then the human dimension is that these are the places that the sweat and blood of the poor workers, really, especially in the United States, are poured into these bricks and mortar that we have. And they're things of beauty. That's the other thing. God is truth and beauty. And you know, we understand, I think, pretty well the doctrinal reality of God. But you know, like von Balthasar says, God is apprehended also through what is beautiful. So therefore, being able to express the presence of God through beautiful art of every generation, which is going to be different, is very appropriate and should be supported and preserved. So I think our church buildings do that in a way maybe we've overlooked. So I think the program was really a great opportunity to draw out all of those kinds of elements of what the church does.
And maybe even highlight some diversity as well, because you know, the Brooklyn Diocese is, of course, very diverse. And looking at different parish buildings across the diocese, I think probably a very good thing. And I know you're a bit of a history buff as well, so I know you like looking into the history of other parishes also.
Well, you know what they say, those who do not know history are doomed to repeat it in summer school. So,
there you go.
But I thought your program was really very interesting, because almost every single program, it wasn't just, you know, the architect's guide to a different time period. I mean, each parish church reflected something particular about, in some cases it was the architecture, in some cases it was the history of what went on with that church, like St. Peter Claver, that whole the thing with Father Quinn. In some cases it's sort of the contemporaneous touches added to a traditional building, like they showed at St. Boniface. In some cases, like St. John the Baptist, they're trying to make the use of this grandiose space, and then the whole Our Lady of the Snows building a church.
So much diversity, absolutely. Well, that is what you will find here.
Yeah, that's right.
Monsignor, thank you so much for being with us today.
You're very welcome. Good to be here.
And that is Monsignor Sean Ogle, pastor of Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church in Astoria, discussing, of course, the show on the net, City of Churches.
Well, it's very fascinating too. I'm kind of like your mom, I'll have to admit. When you were mentioning that earlier, it's just like, I want to go into a church, you know, if we pass one on the street. I just find it very fascinating. I actually, you know, I'm from Georgia, and one city in Georgia that has beautiful church buildings is Savannah, Georgia. And I went on a tour, like a kind of a church tour of Savannah. And you just find so many fascinating things. Brooklyn, of course, no different. As we've been saying, it is a city of churches.
Absolutely. And architecturally, there are stories. Sometimes there are artifacts within them, and you can learn a little bit about history as well as faith.
That's right. That's right. And it's an amazing thing to actually look into that history. I never would have known, had I not seen that clip from City of Churches, that where Our Lady of Mount Carmel is built used to be a broccoli farm.
Broccoli farm. That was the funniest part. I know.
Who knew? Well, that's all for this edition of Currents. Now, coming up on Monday, a famous family's civil rights legacy continues. That and more coming up on the next edition of Currents.
And remember, you can always catch us online at netny.net/currents.
We also want to hear from you. Send us an email. Drop us a line, all one word, at currentsny.net is the email address. Well, for all of us here at Currents, I'm Matt McClure.
And I am Francesca Maxime. Have a fantastic weekend.